Jacob Gross. I'm an assistant professor of higher education at the University of Louisville, and I represented the ASHE side of the collaborative here.
My name is McClean Coval. I'm the Vice President for Public Policy and Federal Relations at the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, and I represented the financial aid administrators in this collaboration.
When we started, we didn't have any real sort of set firm goals. I think we came together and we're sort of interested in three things. One was dialogue around the issues of what does it mean to be doing research and how can we help one another with research. And then we sort of moved to a process of discovery, sort of getting to know what each other meant, for example, by research a little bit more, and then also sort of doing some actual data collection around how people were using research, what people were doing research on for financial aid. And then we sort of moved toward sort of directions, right? So in terms of making recommendations about how practitioners and policymakers and researchers could actually collaborate a little better.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, from NASFAA's standpoint, we had a real kind of clamoring from our members for more information and more research, but we just found that we were lacking a connection there in terms of getting them that information and making sure it was in the right format and really getting them relevant topics.
I think the thing that I guess challenged me most was that and this became clear, I think at least a few months into the collaborative, is that practitioners and researchers talk about research differently and think about it differently. And so what was research to me or was research to a practitioner may have been different things. And that took, I think, some time to sort of get on the same page about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think in addition, I think a real challenge is that our members are kind of lacking in time, so they may have an interest or a thirst for the research, but not necessarily the time to go through, a full academic paper and be able to make sense of, how does this translate into what I can and can't do on my campus.
I think first that NASFAA surveyed its membership, so we could get a sense of really broadly what were the topics that people were interested in. And that wasn't something that I know as a researcher I had seen before, or I don't think even was really out there. And then from there, we honestly, as a collaborative, I think the simplest way to describe it is we talked to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So that those included focus groups and some rigorous methodological things, but really we just collected a lot of data and tried to talk to people to get a sense of what people were interested in and also how practitioners were using or not using research.
I think a big part of that with the focus groups, a lot of us kind of sat in on those and some even conducted them. I think we were really pleased to see that there was an interest from our members in getting that research. I think that was one of the questions we were finding out, what is the level of interest? It was, in fact, very high, and that was helpful to the work.
There were a number of researchers from higher ed. We were also fortunate to bring in some graduate students to help not only help share the workload, but I think also to sort of socialize them in the process of, talking to practitioners, gathering information from practitioners, and thinking about research to practice. We also, worked hand in glove with NASFAA and their policy and research team to gather information. And then I think from across NASFAA, there was a wide representation of financial aid practitioners from various sectors, so community colleges, for-profit institutions, not-for-profit institutions, public 4 years. So it was a pretty diverse group.
That we were able to connect our members to researchers. I think there was kind of a distance there before. And I also think just helping our members be able to kind of better articulate what they need in terms of research, not only from a topic standpoint, but also how that research is presented. And we've made, several steps and recommendations for how we can keep this work moving forward.
I think from a research perspective, I think that one of the things that was really valuable, and I think will be valuable for the field, is that we really sort of got into this issue of what is the alignment or overlap in terms of what practitioners are interested, what policymakers are interested in, and then what researchers are actually doing. And so, one way we got at that was we sort of did a survey of the literature to see what the major themes and topics were, and then we asked the practitioners, NASFAA asked its members, and in some ways it was comforting that there was overlap, but probably the most important things, the most timely issues for practitioners, there was nothing in the literature about it. And I think that was, for me, very eye-opening. I think that adds a lot of value going forward for researchers.
And from the perspective of the financial aid administrator, is really just sort of about the delivery of research. One of the things that we ended up talking about is, at the end of every sort of, academic paper, maybe we actually put a section that talks about putting policy to practice. So here's how you could actually do this in your financial aid office, or folks have done this before and they implemented it in X, Y, and Z ways. And I think for our members, that'll be really key going forward to be able to have those quick takeaways of how to really put research into practice.
I also think this point that Megan raises about the ways we translate our research is really important. Taking even sort of something like a scholarly journal and trying to put content in there that was a little bit more usable to policymakers. So, for example, the NASFAA's published the Journal of Student Financial Aid for 42 years, 43 years. And one of the things we really tried to do, given the upcoming reauthorization of the Higher Ed Act, was take that platform and very specifically try and get articles in there that had focus on policy recommendations for reauthorization of the Higher Ed Act. And I think we were successful at that.
One thing we're going to do from NASFAA's standpoint is really just commit to every year sending out a survey to our members, similar to what we did last year in the beginning of the collaboration, but just asking them, what are your research needs? What are things that you're experiencing on campus that you feel like could really benefit from some scholarly, deep and detailed research? And I think that will yield, given the world of financial aid, new and interesting results as we do it annually.